And hello again, and here we are back in my garage, and I've got a cup of tea, of course. And we left the last video when I explained that I'd made 3 stupid mistakes in about 2 hours. And we'll start this video off by hopefully solving those problems that I caused myself. And the first one of those is where I managed to cut a big groove in the top of one of these fork stanchions, and it's actually not that bad, I don't think. In fact, I shouldn't really handle this because I don't want to get it too greasy before I paint it. And this one here, yeah, it's this one here, and actually I've done quite a good job because it's quite tricky to see it, so I'm quite happy with that. And what happened was, if you didn't see the last video, I managed to use a hacksaw and to cut off the stone protectors that were on here, and I managed to go too far and put a big cut in the aluminium. Not a good idea, but I used a metal filler, filled it, rubbed it down, and now these have got their first coat of etch primer on them, and luckily I did quite a good job, thankfully. I just wish I hadn't done it wrong in the first place. Now the second thing I did was to chip the paint on the lower fork yoke that I painted a while ago, so I'll have to take them off, prep them, etch prime them and paint them again, but that's pretty straightforward. Done it before, can do it again. And the last problem was I managed to scuff up the powder coating on the swing arm in one particular place, which is a real shame because the powder coat is beautifully done. It's really shiny, as always, from Triple S. So for that one, I've actually done a bit of research, as I mentioned in the previous video, and it said you can actually buff it out. So I've got some old rubbing compound here, so I'll try that, followed by polish, and if that doesn't work, I can go along and use some very, very fine wet and dry sandpaper, sort of 3000 grade, and try that instead. And if that fails, I'll just get a big sticker and put it on top. So we'll come to that later on in the video. By the way, if you can hear the noise of the rain outside pitter-pattering, it's because the heat wave we've suffered here in England for the last 3 weeks has finally ended, and we've had very heavy thunder and lightning and heavy rain all day today, which is kind of like, thank God for that, because I hate the heat. But yeah, right now actually the rain's eased off, but if it comes down again, you'll hear it on the garage roof. Anyway, moving on then, I've also just picked up yesterday the new tyres for the Kawasaki here. So I spin the camera around, you'll see what I went for. And sure enough, right on time, the heavens have opened up again, and in fact I can hear some thunder in the distance. But anyway, so here are the tyres I went for. They're Avon, and they're of course British made, and they're called Storm, kind of appropriate today. I went for a standard 120/70 on the front, and on the back I've got a 190/55 rather than the 250 I had on it before. And that's because the last time I used these wheels was on a drag bike, so I wanted the widest, flattest tyre I could get. But that's a road bike, so I want a bit more of a profile, and I don't need a 200 on this old chassis of mine. A 190 is quite enough. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And in fact, I was also quite happy with the price, because I paid £216 for both tyres, fitted, balanced, ready to go. Which I thought was very good, because as I remember the last pair of tyres I bought, which I think were Pirelli Corsas, they were about £250, and I didn't even like them once I used them in the real world. But anyway, so hopefully, Avon being British, are pretty damn good on British roads, so I've always liked Avon. So with that done, hopefully it won't take long now to get these wheels on the bike at last. Okay, so now the heavy rain seems to have eased off a bit, we'll carry on. And what I'm doing now is I'm using this rubbing compound on the scuffed part of the powder coat to see if it will get rid of that scuffing and bring back a good old shine. Now, on YouTube when I saw this being done, the people often used a hand drill and a rotating pad. Well, I don't have one of them, and to be honest, I'd rather do it the slow way, the careful way, and see how we get on. So, come back in about half an hour, and we'll see if this thing will bring back a shine. Hopefully by then, the rain will have eased off and you can hear what I'm saying. Okay, so it's now about 15 minutes later. We've got a break in the weather, thank God, so I can hear me. And I must say, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. This rubbing compound worked really, really well. It seems to have removed most of the problem. The there's still a bit there, but I think if I keep on going another few minutes, we should be able to remove that. I think it's so slight now, you won't be able to see it from the camera, even in bright sunlight, but yeah, quite impressed. Still got a bit to do there, but again, just got to spend time on it, another half an hour if need be, with rubbing compound, and we should get there in the end. So actually quite a big relief that, because I was really concerned that this would, you know, look awful on the bike. Yeah, so, and then when I've done that, I'll just go over it with some polish over the whole thing, and hopefully the whole thing will be, the nightmare will be over, and you won't be able to tell it was ever damaged, because that's quite good. Let me just pop that on there now, because I'm on a break, my tea's going cold, and we'll move on to something else. And so with that small success of sorting out the powder coat on the swing arm, we'll move on to the next job. And in fact, I've just finished spraying the fork lowers satin black, so I don't really want to do much else right now, because I don't want to cause any dust, any muck in the air. And this one's leaning up quite precariously, so I don't want to knock it. But anyway, the next job I've got to do is to drill these handlebars to take the wiring of the Motor Gadget switches, and that means I've got to drill a hole here, and a hole in the middle, which I've actually already marked. Won't do it right now because, as I say, I don't want to cause any muck in the air or any vibration that might upset these fork legs, which are drying off now. So what I've done is I've cleaned my hands for the first time in a while in here, because I want to do something that I've not done yet and that I've been itching to do, which isn't to do with the Z650, but my Mark II over here in the corner. So that's next. And that something is to try out the bodywork on the bike for the very first time. I've been waiting to get some grommets for side panels, but I've got them now, so I just want to sort of pull this out here. For a few months now, it's all dusty and covered in swarf and God knows what else. So let's just pull him out of here, very gently and very carefully. I don't want to disturb anything. In here we've got the side panels and the tank of the Mark II that have been preserved for years and years and years. So I don't want to damage them. I just want to see how it might look. Let me see, I'll pick the one on this side. Here somewhere. Here we are. The immaculate side panel. To the side we can see. So I'll fit that, and then I'll fit the tank and see how it all looks. And so there's the side panel fitted. I must say the frame's looking very dusty. I've also actually learned something, because I thought these were only held in place by 2 mounts, but they're not. They're held in place by 3, but the third one at the bottom is missing. So I guess it must be a bracket off somewhere else that I need to sort out. So anyway, that looks good. Now time for the tank. And there's the tank on the bike. First time for me. I must say I'm very happy to see it there. And it was so easy, because the frame standard, the tank standard, it just goes straight on, no problems at all. Now I do have a standard seat on back order from Japan. Not sure when that's going to be here, but I'm sure it'll be here before I need it. So now that tank can go back in its little box, because above it I've got a big stack of shelves there, and I just know if I leave that tank on there, I'm going to reach over one day and something will fall from those shelves and no doubt smash into the tank. So that tank can go back in a safe spot until it's needed on the bike. And so my next job, before I go and see Jeff this afternoon, is to measure the dimensions of this swing arm, its bearings and so on, and sleeve, and also the gap between the swing arm and the frame. To do that, using my old Vern, and also I've got an ancient pair of calipers here which are very handy when needed. So yeah, I've done all that now. I'm going to sketch out a simple diagram to give to Jeff, which will no doubt confuse him, and then we'll reconvene at Jeff's place, and that's what's next. Going back to the 1170, I see you've been busy here, as have I, as have I. So what we've got here is a one-off foot peg and lever, and then here we've got the brake side. Oops, I fall there.
Well, I was just sort of
like that. That's fine. We've also got these are the bearing carriers.
Yeah.
And as luck would have it, guess what arrived today?
Bearings.
Bearings.
Well,
I'm not sure where they came from, but they're here somewhere. 10 of them. So
I did have a. It's an old one.
Yeah.
Just for reference. It's
So hopefully these are the correct size. Let's have a look.
Help.
10 of them. All nicely sealed up. Well, I'll let you open it. It's all plastic. And what's our little?
Oh, it's on little.
Okay, it's a little tube.
Yeah, they are the same ones. Yeah.
Okay.
The right ones.
There you go. So,
okay.
What'll happen is they go in there.
The thing is, if you're getting them anodised, I didn't want to put them in yet because they're going to be a bugger to.
Well, they go in there, and then these are a tight fit in there, and so then we get the levers rotating on roller bearings rather than a bush that can wear quite quickly. So yeah, it's good. Okay, so hopefully we can see that a bit better now. So we've got the two levers. You've got these two bearing carriers. Hang on, my foot's getting caught on something.
Ah, there you go.
Those bearing carriers are interference fit there.
Well, they're ready to.
The bearings are here that go in there, and then you were saying you've had to machine up some. Oh yeah, they're all machined now. Let's see, they've been beveled.
They've been kept well. Basically, countersunk them so it hides quite a fair bit inside.
So if we now hang on to it off there. Let's see, that goes in there. I think I mentioned last time when I said these have been beveled or countersunk rather. So that's sort of almost flush, not quite, but
it's unless you start using thicker plates.
No, and we've also of course machined the tops as well.
It keeps you only see half, very tiny bits.
So that's great. And here's the other side, the brake side, the more complicated side. And what we've done is the brake lever here. At first we thought we'll do it as a 180, so it's just a straight lever front and back. But we changed it because we get a bit tight for space on this side. Yeah. So we put an angle on it, so now that gives us a lot more room. Because on a bike with race sets, you tend to find, the lever's not like that. It's hanging down because your foot is hanging down too. Yeah. So it makes it more practical. So that's great. And what else we got here? Oh, yeah, we got spacers and stuff.
Well, I mean, I can put one.
That's fine.
Did you want to set one of these up? Which means we're going to have to press a bearing in.
No. I'll just take it home, check it all out. I'm happy with it, and I can prep it all and take it to get them hard anodised. Because
the thing is, to get that right there, we can always play around with.
Oh God, yeah. Because this is off my bike. This is off my old drag bike that never was, and so
that can be shortened or lengthened depending on
this little push rod here, which presses on the master cylinder, is actually quite long there. And in fact, if you do it yourself, you can push it. Hang on, and it doesn't move very far. You can see that. How far is that moving? About 5 mil at most. So there's plenty of room there to play with.
The only other thing that I thought we may need to do before it goes is once that's on, because if that comes up, it can pull out. So I'm thinking it may need a little stop. To stop it from that popping out.
I must say it's not been something I've found before. But I mean, because this little rubber actually holds it quite tightly. But anyway, we can do something like that.
I'm wondering if it might need a little
stop, just to make sure.
Yes. Once we've got it set where we need it, just so that no one can lift it up and it comes out, and then suddenly. Yeah. That was one little thing that.
No problem. We can do that. You've also finished machining up these.
Yeah.
These are actually quite long compared to what you might find on other bikes, but that's because I want to be able to use the damn things.
Sometimes,
we made some before and they were really tiny and they looked really great on my Norley, but I just couldn't bloody use them. My feet were slipping off them, so these are much more practical size. You've also, of course, as I requested, you've ball milled them. Yeah, I'm not normally a fan of ball milling, but I thought in this case we will. Because normally I go for something like this, sort of just drill through them, sort of.
That looks 60s and
high tech, very 60s, very 70s maybe. And this isn't really a 60s bike, so this is more 80s or whatever. So this is kind of like Mad Max brought up to date. So we've got the ball grooves in them. You won't really notice it because, as I say, it's all going to be black. Right, good. So that's good. I can take all that home and try it out for size. Yes. Next thing to do.
What's that?
This is something you've not seen yet. Let me just put that there. Put that there, and we'll bring out the.
Oh, it's a fork brace.
No, it's not.
Oh, is it not?
That is my Speedo Taco clever bit of engineering, electronic trickery. Okay, there it is. And this is the chrome bracket you get with it. Do you remember them?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, we've had these before.
Very, very.
A long time ago, yeah.
It's a lovely clock, but the bracket's very cheap and.
So I've had an idea.
Nasty.
I've had a cunning plan.
Right.
So I brought that for you because I thought you could use that as a guide for where the holes have to be. Okay, so see, I'm thinking of you. V. Yeah, so in here, we have rather dusty
Oh, you've had.
top yoke.
Is that?
I painted it.
Oh, you've painted it.
Satin black.
Right.
Now it does. It's
It will.
tough paint,
yeah.
but it's chipping. So I'm
Yeah.
going to give it another coat. Also here I've got the paint's come off where that's where the bar risers were. It's been clamped down hard. But you
and
can't
it's
see
crushed,
it. It's
yeah.
not the end of the world. So
No.
I've actually found on the lower one I managed to scratch it even worse when I was playing around with the getting the fairing on and off. But it's okay. I'm actually doing that right now.
Is that an etching paint? You can get
It's,
black
well,
etching
no,
paint.
it's etch primed. Then it's the so-called
right.
tough
Yeah.
satin black.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It looks fantastic, but as I say, it's not quite as tough as perhaps it could be. But then again, it's just paint, so.
Yeah, it's very difficult to,
so
unless you get a paint that bakes on.
So
and
my
you come
original
out and
idea was to use this paint on these, but I'm not going to do that now because it's not strong enough. So what we'll do is we'll get these hard anodised. I may even get these hard anodised, but it's a pain because then I've got to take the bearings off the lower yoke and take the stem out.
The stem out.
You might damage the bearings, so not doing that. Anyway, so my cunning plan, Jeff, is this is going to fit obviously in front of the yoke, something like that.
Oh, we're making a bracket that goes under the bar.
Yes, and then yes, we could do, or we could put them beneath.
It's neater because you're not drilling any more holes and.
Yeah. Well, the other option was to mount it from beneath, but still use the same bolts and just put a nut beneath. But I think I'd rather have it on top. So I brought that because obviously you need to know the measurements. Hang on. So that's going to go. You can see here that's going to go kind of like that. Hopefully. Okay, so we found some material. It's about 3mm, just shy of 3mm. Is it?
It's probably, like I say, it's just under 3mm.
Yeah, and I think that's more than enough. It's big enough.
Oh, it's big enough, yeah.
Cut it out. We'll do the basic shaping, and then I'll take it home and work out where the holes have to go.
Well, I can work.
Oh yes, yeah. We can drill them first.
I can do them.
Yes.
I can.
Yeah, and just to remind you, it ain't going to be shiny. It's going to be black, just like everything else around the headstock.
Because I'll bolt it. We don't want it coming over there.
Oh, no, you can shape it.
It wants sitting on and just
shaping it.
Yeah.
Okay, great stuff.
I can get on with that.
So that's one thing done. The next thing is, I've been busy, Jeff, and I brought you a very detailed master diagram. I've been measuring things. I've been measuring things on my bike. What I want now, the priority number one is getting the bike and its wheels. Got the tyres on the wheels, got the forks back, trying to get the swing arm in, get all the spacers sorted out.
Oh, all this.
Yeah, which is a bit of a faffing about. So what I've done here is I've just brought you the spindle. Yeah, and
greatly crafted one.
I've also I've also brought you these are the seals that came with the kit. With the bearings. It's a bit confusing, but anyway.
Hey?
Well, not really confusing, but I need to make sure we take these into account when we make the spacers.
Well, what's that big one there? That's the.
Well, that'll be for the side which doesn't have roller bearings in it. That's it. Yeah, I would imagine.
Bloody big.
Yeah, I think because it's 50mm in it. The outside of the swing arm is 50mm. So I guess it goes on there. Anyway.
It's where I could do it.
You need to be the bike here, and the bike's not here, and you're not here, and you're not my. So unless you want to come and visit, which is a, and then you're measuring it, and then I've measured it, so we'll go through in more detail. Yeah. We'll go through it in more detail. At least make a start. And what I want to do is perhaps make a spacer, take it home. Yeah, it's a tiny bit too big. Bring it back.
Too small.
Oh, no, not. We don't want it too small. You can't add anything to it. We'll make it too big and take a bit off. And if need be, I'll come back 2 or 3 times until it's absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're the key measurements to start us off, and that'll be something for later on today. Okay. I did it very quickly, so I can always write it all out again in a bit more detail. So while me and Jeff study all this and try and work out what I'm talking about, I'll turn the camera off because it's now almost time for tea. Right. Okay. Some time's gone by, and we've filled up our little bit of paper.
I now know exactly.
And we have a plan. We have a plan. We know. I explained it. You've explained it. We know what's going on. Just got to make it next. So now it's time for tea. It's almost 3 o'clock, and then I'll take this stuff home, try it out on the bike, and then we'll go from there.
You sure you don't want to pop one of them in?
Yeah, go on then. I'll just take one.
No, what I'm thinking is if that's just an old bearing.
Yeah, is that quite loose? That one, is it?
Well, I don't know. What I'm thinking of doing, if we press one in and press it into the brake side, you can.
All right. Yeah.
Get an idea.
Okay. Yeah, it's all we can just knock it out, can't we?
But what I'll have to do is machine a little aluminium cup up, sit it in, and then tap it out.
It's all right. Well, leave it like that for now, and I can also put that in the freezer if need be. Or will it just press in?
It'll probably just, if you put that in the vice, it'll just...
Okay. Not a problem. Not a problem.
And then, like you said, I'll do that. And then,
okay.
Do we want to put it in the lever?
Yep.
There's a good distance between that. We can actually take... Could probably lose about 2 or 3 mil off them spacers.
Yeah.
Which would bring that. See how there's a little bend on that?
Yeah.
So if we take 2 or 3 mil off them inner spacers, it'll put everything
level.
Virtually.
Right. Good.
Well. Is that 3? Where's my 3 mil? I've got some air that's 3 mil.
Are you going to do that right now, or
that's 3 mil? Oh, it won't clear.
Okay, no problem.
It might not be cut. We'll take a couple of mil off it. Okay. What we might have to do is put a couple of washers under that. You know, just to get it level.
Yeah, no problem.
It just won't.
Right. Okay. I'll with that.
You can test. You can set that up now.
Yes.
And just see where your foot goes. You can just pop a bolt in it, and you can just see how it is.
Yeah, will do. Except, of course, I haven't got a seat yet, but apart from that, yeah.
You just put a piece of sponge on it and it'll give you an idea then.
Yeah, no problem.
Put all that in your box when you go.
Okay, will do.
Tea.
And now it's time for tea.
Tea.
Great stuff. We'll end it there then. And now I'm back home again. Just going to test fit of these foot peg hangers. They look okay, don't they? Don't want to be too tight yet. And this is obviously the gear change side, so it's going to go something like that. Pivot there. So pretty happy with that. Let's now go and check the brake side. Okay, so I'm now crammed in a very tiny spot. It's not easy to film, but hopefully you can see how this brake side looks on the bike. Pretty happy with that. This bolt still needs to be bolted down, but I'm not bothered yet. But overall, yeah, pretty happy with that. So now I've got to decide what kind of finish I want on the whole thing. Shall I go with black brackets and polished levers, you know, or black levers and polished brackets, or do the whole thing black? Right now I'm thinking the whole thing should be black. But yeah, overall pretty happy with that. There's still a bit more work to do because this spacer here, these two spacers which hold the master cylinder off the plate aren't quite there yet, and we can bring back this lever by about 1 or 2 millimeters to bring everything closer to the bracket. But overall, yeah, pretty happy with that. And with that done, deep breath, let's move on to something else. And that something is this side stand which arrived this morning. So I'm just going to give it a quick test. Now this side stand is not from a Z650, it's from a Kawasaki get this right, ZXR 750 sports bike from the 90s that I was assured will fit just fine, and it does. The pivot's fine, but the problem I'll have, I think, which I always knew about, is when the gear change lever's about here, the kickstand comes up and hits it. I mean, that's something that I know other people have had problems with, because when Jeff made a set of race sets for Williams' Z650 Cafe Racer, this caused a hell of a lot of headaches. It needed a lot of tweaking, whatever. But I mean, what can you do? At the end of the day, the side stand's got to be as long as it has to be to reach the ground, so you can't move it. This mount's fixed, you can't move that, and the feet and your feet are where they are. So you've got this kind of interference problem here. And I'm not quite sure how we resolve it, but I'm sure we will. And my first thought is that this will need to be cut and bent to clear the peg so my toe can go underneath it, and it's not going to interfere with the gear change. But again, you don't really know these things until you try it out. I knew it might be an issue, but as you can see, you know, if the gear change is like that, we're all right. But if it's like that, you know, problems. I think William and Jeff got around the problem, as I say, by cutting and re-welding this this side stand. I'll have to go back and ask him. Anyway, that's one more job to do in the future, another problem to work out. But anyway, I kind of knew about that, so it's not the end of the world. Right, well, with that in place, then at least we can move on to something else. Okay, so I think that's about as much as I can do for today, because even though I've got my forks here fully painted, you can see in satin black, that's fine, and I've got the tyres on the wheels, that's fine. Swing arms now kind of cleaned up, that can go on the bike, except of course it can't because I don't yet have the spaces that I need to fit it to the frame. Good news is Jeff's now on that job, we know where we're going with it. He's making the spaces out of stainless steel, so hopefully he'll have them done by sometime next week. As for the front end, he's also got the top yoke, because he's making the bracket to hold the tacho speedo unit in the correct place. So again, can't really do much else in terms of getting the bike on its wheels, but no doubt I'll find plenty more to do between then and now. But I think for this week that's about it, because I think I'll be busy over the weekend. So thanks for watching and cheers.